Good morning. Today, we'll be talking about protecting our health from the view of the environment. The World Health Day, which was on April the 7th, talks about our planet, our health. And today we have two very exciting speakers with us. Good morning, Dr. Fasawe and Desmond Majekodunmi. We are so pleased and proud to have both of you with us today to discuss this really important issue. Dr. Fasawe, I think we'll just allow Desmond to share a clip. There's been a very, very important announcement by the UN Secretary General. Desmond, if you can share the clip of what he said so we can talk about this very important issue.
Yeah, it certainly is extremely important because the UN is a fairly diplomatic organization, despite the fact that if not for the UN, God knows where the world would be now. Thank God they came fully on board after the Second World War and so on. And what they say carries a lot of weight, but this time he wasn't diplomatic at all. Let me just play you very briefly what he said in relation to that IPCC report.
The jury has reached the verdict, and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises. It is a file of shame, cataloging the empty pledges that put us firmly on track towards an unlivable world. We are on a fast track to climate disaster. Major cities underwater, unprecedented heat waves, terrifying storms, widespread water shortages, the extinction of 1 million species of plants and animals. And this is not fiction or exaggeration. It is what science tells us will result from our current energy policies. We are on a pathway to global warming of more than double the 1.5 degree limit agreed in Paris. Some government and business leaders are saying one thing, but doing another. Simply put, they are lying.
Simply put, they are lying. That kind of rhetoric has never come out of the mouth of any Secretary General of the United Nations since it began, in terms of referring to such a broad base of people. He's basically saying that the representatives of the nations in the UN and the corporate entities are lying because the science it's real. I mean, you and Dr. Fasawe, you're both scientists, so you understand the hardcore aspect of science, and they have all the data. They have all the satellite imagery, they have all the geothermal data, they have all the meteorological data, and all that data is pointing in one particular direction, that we're pushing this earth to a catastrophic consequence. I think it was Obama said, and I'll close on this note, he said it some time back, that this is the first generation with the capacity to understand the gravity and urgency of the problem, but this is the last generation that can provide a solution to prevent this problem from becoming unstoppable and catastrophic. Not very healthy, but we can do it. We can do it.
Well, I think, those words were powerful. Those words were shocking. But, I'm very happy that in Dr. Fasawe, we actually have somebody who not only knows and understands, but is actually actively trying to do something about it in her capacity as GM of LASEPA. Dr. Fasawe, can you just, for the sake of people listening, because, all of this sounds, oh my goodness, gloom and gloom, what's going on, but what are the simple ways that you could explain? How does the environment actually impact our health?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajayi. Most essentially, we have to have a building block, a foundation that states that a clean environment is essential for human health and well-being. In other words, the quality of your environment is directly proportional to the quality of your life, irrespective of age, animal, plant, microorganisms, and the whole ecosystem. That being said, it is after what Dr. Majekodunmi said, telling us that we're going down the hill rapidly also means the indices of health would follow suit if we're directly proportional. What are we doing? What do we think is important? Advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. And advocacy is simply a statement that advocacy means we are putting out policies and we're seeking for you to embrace our policies. Now, before we put out policies, before we ask you to embrace our policies, you are not bound by law, but before we ask you to do all that, education is the first pillar in fighting global warming and climate change.
Thank you very much, because that education is what we're here to do today. Just breaking it down simply, I would say that on a personal note, when I started Doctors on Air, I actually was, the program has actually been focused on primary prevention, letting people understand what the issues are in general health so that they can protect themselves and prevent illness, as opposed to waiting the old way of health, which was wait until you get sick and then treat yourself. Prevent yourself from getting sick. That's the way forward. But when I fully understood the issues to do with the environment and the fact that you cannot be well, you can drink as many smoothies, eat as many vegetables, cut down on this, that, and the other. But if your environment is unhealthy, you will be unhealthy. And the way and the rate at which we are, we are rushing towards as the Secretary General puts it, an unlivable world is frightening. But the good thing is that there's something that we can all do about it. And that's what we're here to talk about. So in terms of education, I don't know if you could give us some simple things like, how would an unhealthy world impact an individual, maybe in terms of their health, their breathing, whatever.
Okay.
Those kinds of things. Yes.
I would first give you verifiable statistics. World Health Organization says environmental stressors, meaning polluted air, water, land, and pollution can be in form of emissions, noise, particles in the air, gaseous industries, water from what we pour into our water streams, and land from even what we pour on the floor. Those things are responsible for 12 to 18% of all deaths in 53 countries of the world, especially in the Europe region. A World Bank study done in Lagos, Nigeria, also shows that 65% of death in a certain area was due to, I wouldn't say pulmonary, the air we breathe in, the state of our chest, the state of our lungs. And what is most damning is that out of this 65, majority, almost 70 to 80 of them were children under 5. So air quality, air pollution is a killer. And how do we fight against this? Air is supposed to be transparent, odorless, clear, and all whatnot. What we are advocating in LASEPA is that we want to improve the air quality, and we are improving the air quality of the environment in key areas such as air, water, and air pollution is the single largest environmental health risk in the whole world. It is associated with health diseases. It is associated with stroke, lung diseases, and even lung cancer. Exposure to air pollution has been documented and estimated to result in over 400,000 premature deaths in the world, meaning that if you had clean air, we will be saving 400,000 people annually. So
Yes.
the manufacturers of cars did not make cars to pollute the air, even if we are burning fossil fuels, petrol and diesel. This fuel is totally combustible of the car is supposed to be acceptable to human life above water and underwater. However, when we fail to service our cars as a when due, when we fail to service our generators as a when due, when in industries we use archaic machines, when we burn adulterated fuel, when we use adulterated diesel, when we expose ourselves to carbon monoxide, which is an end product of hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons are kerosene, petrol, diesel, even some gases and all. We start to breathe in things that damage our lungs, ultimate killers. For children, especially. Adults, we have ways of using, our lungs can filter a certain size, particulate matter of certain size. Our lungs can have immunity to deal with a lot of things. But imagine imagine a group of children in an area where the air is polluted. 60% to 70% of those children are already unhealthy from youth. Their lung capacities are affected. And for children, they're innocent. They don't know. They come home with a sneeze, a cough, itchy eye, even on the skin. These are all signs. I am talking to parents now. When your children cough, sneeze, show allergic reactions, check their environment first before what they eat in, what they breathe in, where they play, where they live, even with you at home. I will give a good example. I was talking to Association of Hazardous and Chemical and Hazardous Materials Storage Facilities yesterday. And I said to them that their protective personal equipment, PPE, is very, very essential. We take it for granted that we don't have to wear overalls. A lot of these chemicals we deal in that come into the air are volatile organic compounds that are absorbed by t-shirts, by beautiful outfits that we wear to work. And then we get home and hug our children, carry our children, they breathe it in, and in little bits like that, we're causing damage to these children. Education, education, education. Now superimpose that on constantly saying, I must wear my gloves, I must wear my nose masks to protect myself, I must wear my overalls to protect everyone around me. All those things are left in that environment and you go home clean without having residual gases and obnoxious gases on you. That is for air quality.
You explained clearly to us about air pollution. I believe you are going to talk to us about the water we drink. Please carry on.
I like the fact that you said water we drink, and I'll take it in the reverse order. Even bathing water is important. Now, water pollution is simply water that is not potable water. Potable water means drinking water. Water is hydrogen in two molecules and oxygen, H2O. It is colorless, it is odorless, you can see through it, and it is supposed to be tasteless. However, science has taught us that, okay, we can fortify our water with fluoride for good teeth. We can clean the water with chlorine to make it healthy. But these things are in specific measurements, standard acceptable measurements for the whole ecosystem. Now, you said drinking water. I'm taking it in the reverse order. The water we use to bathe, the waters our food, fishes, all seafood, swimming, if polluted, is a cause of a major disease. And that disease is gastrointestinal tract. Let me put it in simple English. Diseases that affect our skin and our stomach, in spite of the fact that we haven't taken it in. For example, if your skin comes in touch with water that contains mercury, it can give you cancer, not only of the skin, but of some of your organs. It can give you heart problems. It can give you liver and kidney, especially kidney problems. Yet you have not put mercury in your mouth. I will use a very simple example. In the developed countries of the world, their Food and Drug Administration community have banned mercury in cosmetics. In cosmetics, simple, because we found out that mercury causes kidney failure and kidney cancer, yet it touches us on the skin. In terms of bathing water, we have ringworm, which creeps into our blood system through the kind of water we use on our body. If the water that touches our body can harm us that much, how about the water we drink? More than any other thing, water is essential to life, to trees, to animals over the land, under the land, and most especially to human beings. Even to industries, most manufacturers need water. There's hardly anything you manufacture without water going through your process. What then am I saying? How do we protect ourselves and our health from water pollution? One, we must be aware of the term potable water. As I said earlier on, potable water is drinking water. Clean, clear, odorless, colorless, you can see through, and it's tasteless. Two, the source of our water. Government has a responsibility to ensure that the water that is coming out of its tap is potable water. Potable means clean. Government has the responsibility to ensure that every water that its citizens drink, again, is potable. But with our industrial activities, our daily activities, at times we find out that the aquifer is way underground, where water is, where the boreholes are sunk into, where we pump water out from, where the rivers are made from, where the riverbeds, generate from, can be polluted by things as simple as constantly pouring diesel on the floor. Constantly, mechanic villages where you see black soil. The soil is totally black. That thing seeps all the way down into our water system. So our activities, one, anthropogenic activities, pollute the water. But honestly, the onus is on you, the consumer of the water, to ensure that the water you're drinking is potable. And how do we do this? The simplest of all is, if you are not sure of the source of water, if the water does not possess all these characteristics I have said, simply boil it to 100 degrees centigrade. 100 degrees centigrade is when it starts to bubble, and leave it to cool. When that is done, all microorganisms and all pollutants, most, if not 99.5%, is gone, and the water becomes potable. Science has also given us filters of all sorts. Remember us growing up, we used to have those metal things. What do we call them? They're like, you pour water in it, and at the bottom of it, you open the tap, and the water that comes out is clean. It's some sort of science that has very micro filters that remove all pollutants from the water. What are the diseases that the water we drink can cause? One, which is very deadly and is common amongst adults, children, even newborn, is diarrhea. Diarrhea can lead to dehydration and death in a child within 2 days. The other one is typhoid fever, which we all talk about and is very common. Typhoid fever we get from what we put in our mouths, either from the food we eat that has been cooked with polluted water, or has been frozen and then warmed not to 100 degrees centigrade, because the organism that causes typhoid fever cannot withstand temperature, extreme temperatures. So even if we cook our food, put it in the freezer, when we want to eat it again, please boil it till it is hot enough to kill everything in it. Now, 3, the mechanics and the science. We can buy treated water if you can afford it. People that bottle water, but ensure that it is registered and accredited by the Nigerian Food and Drug Accreditation Agency, NAFDAC.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I think we've covered quite a lot. And I think what is important is people need to understand that these are all things that man has created. And so it is up to man, i.e. you and me, to do something about it, to do something to stop it. Desmond, can you, talking about the impact of man on the environment. I mean, Dr. Fasawe has beautifully illustrated how simple, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, I would say. But can you, Desmond, tell us a bit about where we are going and what the US Secretary General meant by an unlivable world?
Yes, he meant something really, really dire. But as you said, Dr. Fasawe has really explained it very, very clearly. That, the crux of what she's saying is that the environment is our life support system. We call it environment, we call it the ecosystem, but it is our life support system. As doctors, 5 minutes without the O2, that's the oxygen, boom, you're gone. 4 or 5 days max, I would imagine, without the H2O, the water, you're gone. 40 days without, it's our life support system. But we're not treating it that way at all. Possibly because in days gone by, there was so much of it, the earth was so abundant. But then as the population continued to explode and grow almost exponentially, the demands on the resources of our planet became exceedingly heavy. And not only were we tapping into the planet for our life support, we also, with the advent of technology and the Industrial Revolution, we're tapping into the planet for our relaxation, for pleasure, and so on and so forth, for traveling, you know, the internal combustion engine with all the cars and the aeroplanes and, you know, generating the electricity, and all these things have been taxing the life support system far too much, which is why the Secretary General of the United Nations said what he said. And prior to that, just last year, he also made another statement, which was that mankind is perpetrating war on nature, and this is suicidal. He used that phrase. He said, because nature always fights back. And I think, you know, when we're sort of referring to a bit of science here, we should remind ourselves that that is one of the most fundamental laws of physics, that for every action, there must be a reaction.
Yes.
It's generally, you know,
It is
equal and opposite.
reaction.
Yeah, but it, you know, depends on the circumstances of that, but there must be a reaction. And this is also reflected in scripture very, very clearly in all the scriptures, from the Holy Bible to the Holy Quran, to the Bhagavad Gita, to the Jewish sutras. Anything that is worthy of being called a scripture tells us about the law of karma, tells us about the law of retribution, the law of action and reaction. And, you know, you can put it in much more basic terms, which is, you know, what we sometimes have to do. And as a farmer, I can definitely testify to that, that if you plant cassava, you cannot harvest cocoyam. Whatsoever you sow, you reap.
You read, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it is important.
yeah,
What you're saying is so important. I really wish we had more time, you know, to talk in depth about this. But what I would like to do is to encourage all the parents out there and all the people in the workplace out there. We have a competition called the Dawn Project, where we are encouraging people to look into these issues, and there are huge cash prizes to be won. So if you go into dawnproject.org, that's DAWNPROJECT, dawnproject.org, you can see all the details there. And I would encourage everyone who is listening to this project, even if you are not interested, to learn more and to encourage people around them to go on and to join this competition. So I'm afraid time is completely actually up. And I want to say a very big thank you to both of you for coming on. And, you know, we've been asked to do a lot more in terms of Twitter Spaces and all that. So we're going to look at actually talking to you in greater detail about this.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for new video updates.